Hello, my name is Eric Elton. I'm the Director of Outreach at Prince of Peace in Burnsville, Minnesota. I'm here today to talk about volunteering. So let me paint a picture for you. It was about 2006, 2007. The ministry that we were doing for food and clothing was growing like crazy. We had volunteers, we had people coming that needing items, and we were at a point where we felt like we needed more staff. So I went to my supervisor and said, "Hey, we need more staff." And he said, "No, you don't." And I said, "You're crazy. We can't do this anymore." And he said, "You don't have a choice. You need to figure out how to grow leaders amongst your volunteers." So one of the key moments in our ministry that he led us to was in Exodus 18, and where Jethro comes to visit Moses, and the ministry's growing like crazy. And then all of a sudden, Jethro observes things, and he says, "Moses, you're doing this all wrong." He said, "You need to appoint others to help do this ministry." And it's like, wow, all of a sudden, the scripture came to life for us. So what ended up happening from that point forward is we started implementing this whole idea of getting volunteers into leadership. In our main leadership team, every single person left because they said it wasn't going to work. And our supervisor said, "It is going to work. You just got to give it some time and keep working the mission, keep working the vision." 6 months later, every person from that leadership team, except one, rejoined and said, "Aha, I get it. Now I understand what's going on here." And so we moved forward. From that moment forward, we learned that in order for us to grow into where we believe God was calling us, the only way we could do it was by equipping volunteers. If we didn't, the ministry was only going to be as big as we as staff could be. As life continued to happen, we continued to grow in terms of the volunteers, in terms of leadership teams, in terms of the families coming to visit us. And we lived into that vision very well. Today, we have nearly 200 volunteers that come serve with us each and every week of the year. And that is how we have lived into a new way of leading with volunteers. I happen to be from a church that has multiple staff in our mission department. I also know there's many churches out there that don't have multiple staff. And what I can say to anyone, whether it's a larger staff or smaller staff, nobody should have the option of not growing volunteers. There is so much that can be done by giving things to volunteers and then trusting them, equipping them to do the work. So here's some examples of what it could be. First of all, you might look at a ministry that has been going on for quite some time. And you might look at all the different roles that could be that are covered during that season of that ministry. And you might want to look at, say, well, what if we created 5 different job descriptions within that? Now, these are not formal job descriptions, not like you would have as a full-time or part-time staff person. But these are just high-level parameters that you might say, this is what a volunteer can do. We can equip this person to do it. We know the gifts of this person because of what they've done with us in the past. And then turn them loose. And maybe there's another piece that you pull together and you say, I know of someone else who could do this part of it. And you equip them to do that work, and then you merge those two together. And all of a sudden, you've got a team. And you continue to do that until all of the work has been parsed out to different people. More than likely, they're not going to do it the way that you want them to do it. And that is a big shift for many of us who think that our job and our security of our job depends on making sure that certain things get done a certain way. The fascinating thing that we have found with volunteers is that if you turn them loose and allow God to create inside of them, the passion that they have grows inside of them, and they get super excited about coming because they believe in the mission and the purpose of the overall ministry, but they also believe in their roles. Now imagine what that would be like to have 4 or 5 people that just want to grab something and run with it. Our jobs as staff then is to be like the bumpers on the outside of a bumper car. So we determine what the mission and the vision is. That is the in-between spaces where the cars all run. And all of a sudden you see a car going and it bumps into the side. Well, that's us that says, whoa, time out. You maybe are going a little too far. And so you reel them back in and you keep them inside the bumpers. And you keep them moving forward. You keep them understanding the mission, the vision, the passion gets lit up, and all of a sudden you continue to go and you continue to grow. And hopefully they understand that it's their job now to recruit. Because if it's only up to us to do all the recruiting, it is very limited as to the number of people and the people that actually will show up. And people are empowered, they feel good about it, they believe in the mission and vision, and they know that they're making a difference. And so what if you, at the end of the day, end of the week, what if you ask that team, so where did you see God in the midst of this? Where did God show up to help them understand that they're doing God's work, that this is a ministry? This isn't just another project. But if we did our job well, we're connecting what they're doing to God's work. And all of a sudden they realize that they are living it out and breathing and engaging others into being part of the God's kingdom. And what a cool gift that becomes for everybody that gets to participate. Most of the time, what we find with volunteers, it is just delightful. They're happy and they're excited and interested in coming. But every once in a while, you get someone who really wants to push the edges of those bumper cars. They really want to get outside the boundaries, and all of a sudden you realize that these folks are choosing to come here. And so what one might want to consider doing is sitting down with that person and say, you know, we really have this purpose, this mission, this vision, this direction that we really want this ministry to go. And what we see as staff that is going on is that it's veering away off of that. And you as a volunteer are part of that, and we are asking you to kind of reel it back in again, kind of lay out a plan that will help encourage you to live into that new way of doing things and more inside the mission and vision of what we kind of had hoped for. And then let's check in a month or so and see how that's going. If it doesn't go well, then it's time to have a more serious conversation. And let me tell you, it isn't fun to say, hello, Mr. and Mrs. Volunteer, we can't use your services anymore. But there is a way to say, you know what, this might not be the right project for you. And maybe there's something else that is better suited for you or fits better within your passion and your interest. But hopefully by the time you get to that point, they understand and you've had enough conversation back and forth that there's an understanding that, yeah, this really isn't a good fit. Occasionally though, it's just a flat out, sorry, you can't come back. And it's a hard conversation. It isn't any fun at all. You just have to trust that they believe you or believe in the mission and that you're leading it into that direction, and you continue to move forward and take the higher ground. And it gets bumpy. It isn't fun. But on the other side of it, when other volunteers see how you handled it, boy, you actually did kind of play the high road. You didn't talk about this person behind anyone's back. You weren't bad-mouthing them. You just stayed the course. All of a sudden, most of that stuff goes away. And you continue to move forward with new leadership, and you continue to work with a team that continues to help live into what you believe God's calling the ministry. I'd say that one of the greatest joys that I've had in ministry is to actually equip and allow volunteers to lead. Initially, I think myself and some of my teammates have always felt like, that's my job. I should be doing that. That no, our job is actually to work ourselves out of a job. Our task is to equip others to do this work. And what ends up happening then, the more we equip others to do this work, the more we get to do of God's work in God's kingdom. And more people get touched, more people get engaged, and more ministry gets to be done.